Welcome, friends of the internet, to the Alternative Sports Show powered by Virgin Magazine. Yet again, it is a LaLiga special with the El Clasico coming up this weekend. And once again, we are so lucky to be joined, of course, one with Andrea Dixon, but someone a little more important than the two of us, live and direct out of Barcelona, Semra Hunter. Hello. How you doing?
Hello. Thanks for having me on the show again. Nice to see you guys.
Thank you so much, as always. You always make time for us silly little fools to chat good stuff about LaLiga. I feel like there's a lot to be excited about, a lot at stake. But before we get kick-started, thank you, LaLiga, for this awesome little video package to get us hyped. Take a look at this. And there we go. A lot to be excited about. If that hasn't got you hyped for this weekend, then I don't know what will. Plenty at stake. Last time we chatted, Semra, I felt like maybe unanimously, we all thought that maybe Barcelona was going to get the win. It finished 2-0 to Real Madrid last time round. So Barcelona are searching for the first time since 2019 a La Liga win in the El Clasico. But it feels like a lot more is at stake this time round. I know the pandemic always waters down. Without fans, it's different. But with Atleti failing to capitalize on their lead over the last few months, it feels like it's anyone's to win this time, right?
It really does. And it's amazing how much of a turnaround there's been in La Liga this season. Is for the first half, Atletico Madrid were just flying and they were running away with it. They took 50 points, which was the best point tally ever with a game less in hand still to play at that stage of the season. And it was just remarkable. Well, I mean, they've got it. It's done and dusted. I mean, they're 12 points clear over Barcelona, over Real Madrid, over those that are trailing behind them. There's no way they're going to overturn that deficit because it's never happened before in the history of La Liga Santander. No team with that big of a margin behind a leader has ever been able to chase them and surpass them. But now it seems like we're going to be witnessing history unfold right in front of our eyes because Atletico Madrid sit just 1 point ahead of Barcelona, 3 points ahead of Real Madrid, and magically, just like that, are now favourites to the title once again. And there's still 9 games to go. So anything can happen. I think more worryingly for Atletico Madrid is their form, because it's not just about dropping the points. It's suddenly they've become very nervous. They've been expressing that nervousness on the pitch. The pressure really, I think, has been getting to them on a mental level, and they've been making a lot of mistakes. That compounded with the injuries, the COVID tests, with COVID, and the tired legs too. A lot of players, important players like Marcos Llorente, Luis Suarez, Savic, they've played almost every single minute of the season whenever they've been available. So I think a lot of it has been implosion in a way at Atletico Madrid over the last couple of months. And they're not used to being in a position where they're the ones at the top of the pile leading the way. It almost feels imposter syndrome. So it's like, oh, well, this is strange. You know, there's no one around us. We're like in an oasis as the leaders. And I think it's really gotten to them. It's weighed heavily on their minds and it's affected their performances. So in the last, I don't remember exactly how many games it is now, but they've dropped far too many points. So that coupled with Barcelona hitting their stride, Real Madrid hitting their stride, that gap has gone like this. As Atletico Madrid have lost points and Real Madrid and Barcelona gained points. So now all of a sudden, we're in this situation where it's extremely exciting. This is a Clasico that is probably the most important in terms of a title race since the 2013-14 season, when it went all the way down to the very last day. Literally one goal was all the difference in Atletico Madrid becoming the champions. So there's a lot riding on this one, for sure.
And if you look at the form table, especially going into this, like you referenced, the margins are so fine. So Atleti at the moment do sit at top with 66 points, but their last 5 record has been a loss, a win, a draw, a win, and another draw. Whereas Barcelona sat on 65 points. At the start of the season, we were really kind of writing off what Koeman could do with Barcelona. It's now 5 wins on a bounce. Real Madrid, of course, 3 points off the top. 3 wins, 2 draws. So it's not a lost cause, but a lot of momentum riding Barcelona. Dre, we have a cool little package running up. You spoke to Andrea Orlandi. How was that conversation?
It was fun. It was a real funny conversation. He ripped Liverpool.
As it would be. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he ripped my Liverpool to shreds, and he was laughing at my team getting completely dominated by Real Madrid. But no, it was a really good insight to the game and the importance of it. And well, take a look. I've called in my friend Andrea Orlandi. How are you, sir?
How are you, Andrea? All good here in Barcelona. What about yourself?
It's not as good in Croydon in London, but we don't have the beach and stuff like that. But we're working on it. We're working on it.
Well, come on, man. London is not too bad. Not too bad.
It's not too bad. Well, when you come over here, then I'm sure you're gonna give the place a nice bit of style and panache, compared to what we are like over here. But it's all about this weekend. I'm very excited about this. I'm a Liverpool fan, so I'm still reeling from the beating that we got from Real, but we'll get to that in a second. But regarding this game, obviously I feel that this is like one of the most exciting La Ligas. The most exciting Clásicos that we've had in a long time, because there's a lot of high stakes involved in this. There's a lot on the line, with each team trying to keep up with more catch. Now Atletico but just firstly on Atletico, they were far ahead. What happened to them? Just capitulated.
Well, I don't really know what's happened. I think that there's a bit of different things. First of all, Simeone is not probably not the more expansive type of manager. And when he saw the end line, he started to see the end line. He started to tell his players to be a little more conservative. Come on, guys, let's defend before attacking. And you could see the approach in games change quite drastically. And Atletico weren't creating as many chances. They weren't as open as they had been in the first few games of the season. Then there was a problem with Kieran Trippier, that he was banned, and they had to find a way to replace him. So he had to play some important players out of position. Marcos Llorente being one, who's arguably being the best player, having to play as right wing back. That didn't work either. Then Suarez, obviously, he was flying at the beginning of the season. Yeah. Now he's in his mid-30s. There was always going to be a moment where it stopped scoring. So you needed someone else to step up and take responsibility. João FENIXX hasn't been the man where he should have been. And I see them being very tired, Andre, both mentally and physically. The other day against Sevilla, they looked flat at times. They didn't really react. There was no will, there was no aggression in a team that actually they should have plenty of it. So they're blowing it away, which is crazy. If you think about it, they had a 10-point gap with a game in hand. It was in their hands, and now we've got a Clasico coming up with Barca having the chance to take the lead in La Liga, and Real Madrid as well. So it's it's an exciting one, to be honest.
But as we mentioned before, this is a really high pressured game. Now, normally, obviously, La Liga is very prideful, passion filled game. No one wants to lose, because there's a lot of stake on the a lot of pride at stake on this. So banter, so forth, between the two. I know we know what it's like with Man United to Liverpool, but this is a different level. This is different level of players, I'd say. So you know, who, before I'll ask you who you think is going to win at the end, but like, who do you think is better equipped to be able to take the lead if they win? So who do you reckon is going to be the best option to be able to just go ahead and win the whole thing, if they win this game?
Obviously, I think Real Madrid, because they know how to do it, man. Somehow, they don't need to be playing well to get results, and you can never write them off. When they were like 12 points behind, I still said, well, listen, they got a chance to turn things around. And last year, when after the restart of the competition after COVID, there were 11 games to go, and they said, listen, we got a target, we're gonna win. We have to win 10 games and we're going to be champions. And this is what they did. And it's not like they played some fantastic football. They were just professional, did exactly what they had to do and won the league. So I see similarities in this, few games that we got left. And they just hit form at the right time. And even in the Champions League, when they played Atalanta, everyone was scared of Atalanta in Spain. And I said, no, they're going to get through. No worries. This is Real Madrid. And with Liverpool, I'm sorry that you're a Liverpool fan. But I had the same feeling. Of course, there's still the second leg to be played. So, you have a chance, Andre.
As a very small chance. We have to see if lightning strikes twice, against the Spanish teams, because I was actually going to say it was who are we looking out for? Who are the main players that actually could win this game? Obviously, take away Messi, because obviously everyone's going to go to him. But I'm looking at, for me, Toni Kroos and Casemiro just literally just dictated the midfield over in the last game of the Champions League against my poor team. But who are the players that you think are gonna make their impact in this game? Would you say?
Yeah, I think the midfield battle is going to be very important. So obviously Casemiro, Modric, and Kroos, they've been playing consistently so good for the last few years, but this season especially they've been excellent. You've got Casemiro, the second player in LaLiga with most recoveries, very important. Modric, the midfielder with the most dribbles, and Kroos, the midfielder with the best and more influential passes. So with three players, you've got the best combination you can possibly have in a midfield three. And with Barca, now Pedri is playing alongside Busquets because the young is playing slightly deeper as a third centre back. But for this one, I expect Koeman to actually have Araujo back in that defensive line, and probably the young will be playing higher up the pitch. So I think that the game's going to be won in that midfield. The young Busquets and Pedri up against Modric, Kroos, and Casemiro. And one that is going to be painful for you, Vinicius, man. Vinicius.
I avoided his name on purpose because I'm still sore about this.
Listen, he can't score in La Liga. What happened the other day? He had 2 chances to score twice. The biggest problem he has is like composure in front of goal. And the other day it was clinical. It was really, really good. So that's the thing that he's been missing. Let's see if he can start improving this part of his game, because he's got everything to be a big player. So Vinicius up against Serginho Dest. That's an important battle. Yeah. Alba up against Lucas Vázquez on the other side as well, and then a midfield battle. And then you take Benzema and Messi out of the equation. I think these are the most exciting battles going into this one.
And would you say, obviously Real Madrid are in the middle of being in the Champions League tie. Barcelona have got the Copa del Rey final next week. Is this going to play any part in their preparations for this game, or is it just strongest teams, to win this game, because obviously, the title's there to be taken?
Yeah, I think this is the case. The strongest team possible. Both teams wanting to win. Maybe Koeman being slightly more cautious, as this season Barca, when they had to win important games, they haven't done it. The first Clasico del Camp Nou, they lost quite badly. Against Juve in the Champions League, where they had to be first of the group, they lost as well at the Camp Nou. Against PSG in the first leg, they were awful as well. So this is the game where they need to make a statement and prove that they deserve to win the title. And I think, he doesn't want to be risking that much. And then Zidane, I thought against Eibar, he did try the 3 centre-backs, and he was experimenting, trying to use that going into El Clasico, but he won't have Varane. So Varane's not available, so I'm not sure if he'll play the 3 centre-backs. And then Vinicius was on fire the other day.
Yeah.
So if you play the 3-5-2, where is Vinicius going to play? So that's why hopefully for the neutrals and for the show, it's gonna go 4-3-3, and it'll be an exciting game to watch.
I'm really excited for this. I'm going to put you on the spot now. You got to give me the winner.
Well, man, that's a difficult one. I used to play for Barca, but I don't let my feelings get into it. Madrid playing at home, they're slightly favorites because of their DNA, man. They're just natural champions, and they know how to play these sort of games. But that's why I tell you Real Madrid, hoping that I'm wrong.
Yeah, so it's a Jedi mind trick and trying to jinx your prediction. No. I'm hoping you're going to be, I'm hoping you give me the right answer with this one now. Can Liverpool turn this around? Will Real Madrid go through, or will Liverpool go through? I have to ask.
Okay, I think Real Madrid will go through. Sorry about that.
Not another beating, I'm hoping. That's the only thing.
It'll be a completely different game. Problem with Liverpool defensively. So many mistakes with a simple long ball. The whole defensive setup is just nullified. So I think that the biggest problem is the first pressure of the advanced players is not there anymore if you compare it to last season. So it looks like it's too easy to create chances against Liverpool. Now, you've got stars there that can win. They can win you a game and turn things around. So everything is possible, of course, especially after what happened against Barca.
Yeah, true. See, I'm hoping that your prediction this time is another thing that you're doing with the Jedi mind trick again. I'm hoping and praying for that. Orlandi, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. My pleasure. Thank you, man.
And there we have it. Andrea Orlandi basically burning Dre's dreams to tatters. It doesn't sound very convincing, Dre. I think this is really interesting for us fans, like if there are fans that don't get themselves across watching La Liga, if they're not keeping an eye on the tables, we obviously, a lot of English fans will have a little dip test based on what's happening in European competition. As we know, Europa League and Champions League is happening at the moment. So we'll come to you first on this, Dre. Of course, you've firsthand been experiencing that. I think a lot of fans going into that Champions League match felt like, Real Madrid with Varane, obviously with COVID missing the match, Sergio Ramos with the injury. There was a lot of hope for Liverpool, but then I think there's something that Real Madrid can take away from that Liverpool match that's going to fill in with lots of confidence going into that Barcelona game.
Well, that's one of the things that we, obviously in the video that we referenced, on Andrea and myself, whereas the momentum, because obviously, they stepped up significantly to dominate in midfield. So Casemiro was everywhere. Sick of seeing him, to take my team apart. And then obviously Toni Kroos is such an intelligent midfielder where he, could just literally just spot a pass. He's pretty much, we're not gonna try to pass through you, your midfield. We can just go over. So he makes a split decision just like that. And then obviously you've got Modric, who's just doesn't seem to, his engine never seems to go out. So I think personally that for me, I don't know if Semra would agree, but the game is going to be won or lost in midfield because it just seems like, Real Madrid are getting momentum now. But I will leave it to the expert to educate me and my Sherpa of La Liga.
Well, I do agree with you. I think this is definitely going to be a more tactical battle than we're used to seeing. I do think it will come down to what happens in the midfield, in part because both teams are a little bit shaky at the back. So the midfield is going to provide that first line of defense as Madrid did for Liverpool. I mean, Toni Kroos, Casemiro and Luka Modric were just a wall, and Liverpool really couldn't get through them to really provide any sort of attacking threat whatsoever. I mean, there were a lot of other issues from Liverpool, but that certainly was one of them. And I think it's going to be the same with Barcelona. Both of them are much stronger going forwards. They have so much firepower in attack right now. It's silly. Benzema's in the form of his life. He scored in the last 7 games in a row, 9 in total, something he's never done before. He broke his record that he previously set 6 games back in 2016. Marco Asensio's in the form of his life, scoring 4 games in a row, something he's never done before. Vinicius has even kind of come to life at the right time, peaking at the right moment, finally putting in that final definition. He's really struggled, been a struggle for him. And when it comes to Barcelona, you talk about it, Messi definitely hitting form at the right time. I think it's 14 games in a row now before Valladolid, whether he scored or he's back in the scoring charts as the leader. He's the record holder in a Clasico, scoring 26 times, even though he hasn't done so since Cristiano Ronaldo left in 2018. So he might have a bit of a thorn in his side that he'd like to try and remove this weekend, Stefano. But for me, in terms of the structure and the shape of both of these two teams, it really hinges in a way, at least in the case of Barcelona, on De Jong, where Koeman wants to play him. Yeah. Because he's in defense, no Piqué, no Araujo. He's been playing with 3 at the back, I think, since PSG, so over the last 5-6 games or so. And he's deployed De Jong, who is the holding midfielder, as part of that back 3. And it's largely worked for them, having Jordi Alba and Serginho Dest as the wing backs. The thing is, against Valladolid, it wasn't working. They couldn't really find a way through the Valladolid defense. They put 5 at the back. They were defending deep in a low block, and it was a really difficult time for the attacking players to get through. There was no spaces for them. So he decided, Koeman, to change the formation back to a 4-3-3. He put De Jong back into the midfield, and that was when things really sort of clicked for them. It did help that it went down to 10 men, but still, they were able to finally make that breakthrough and pick up those 3 points that they badly needed to keep them in this title race. So the question will be whether Koeman wants to do that from the offset, if he wants to start with a 4-3-3, have Frenkie de Jong in the midfield, or if he prefers to have him starting in a back 3, test the waters against Real Madrid, and then make changes as necessary. And I think with Zidane, it's also a bit of a head scratcher because he's also been using 3 at the back in the last games, which is something he's never really done before. And again, I think it's down more to the defensive absences because there are a lot. Ramos, Varane, Carvajal, 3 out of the 4 main starters, usually in the back line 4, haven't been available. But again, he went back to 4 at the back. So I think a lot of us are not quite really sure what to expect. There's a possibility that they mirror each other. They do go with 3 at the back, both of them. But there's also very much the possibility that they go with that they're more comfortable with, really, both of these two sides. But again, it all hinges around what's going to happen in that midfield. I think in terms of Madrid, it's no doubt going to be that midfield legendary trio with Barcelona, Pedri, Busquets, and then we'll see where De Jong goes. But absolutely, that midfield is going to be crucial to who eventually walks away the victor in this one, if it is the case that somebody wins, or maybe it's just a draw.
I was just wondering just one thing, and I'm literally clutching at straws here, but it feels weird, with the games. I don't know if you would agree with Real Madrid having it at their training ground. Mm-hmm. It just feels like, and I can't explain it. And again, I'm clutching at straws. Sore loser, still bitter, still salty, but it just feels.
I was going to say, maybe you should have a word with Jurgen Klopp, because didn't he say something before the game about it being at a training ground, and then he had to use words afterwards?
He shouldn't say that. He should leave it to fools like me to say. But it just feels like there's a weird, unfair,
the wrong tone for the players, doesn't it?
Well, you've given me my answer just in that short piece there, where I was clutching at straws yet again. But yeah, it just, I just feel that it just makes the game a little bit strange to me. I don't know if you agree.
I do agree. I do think there is an element there that is a little bit odd. Most people, this grandiose, elegant stadium that is the Santiago Bernabéu, that is. It makes an impression on you when you walk in. I don't know if you've ever been there before, but it's so vertical as well. It's so big that you just walk in and you feel this impact of where you are. And at the Alfredo Di Stefano, obviously it's not the same. It is a training ground. I think for the Madrid team, they're so used to playing there because, I mean, they train on another pitch just, you know, Zidane used to be the coach of Castilla. That's where Castilla plays their games. So he's coached plenty of games there. A lot of the players who are now in the first team came through the youth system. So they played plenty of games there. So in terms of Madrid, I don't think they're that phased by. But the visiting teams, I'm not really sure if they're, maybe in a way they kind of feel like that element of the Bernabeu, which kind of took Madrid to another level, that made these are European giants and so on. In a way, when you go to Valdebebas, maybe it loses a bit of that element, a little bit of that factor. And obviously there's no fans around, so that certainly doesn't help. But the interesting thing is, from word of fellow journalists who have gone to these games at the Alfredo Di Stefano, is just how loud it is in terms of the players on the benches. They're just shouting and screaming the whole time, and you can hear everything that's being said. And so the players on the pitch don't have an excuse anymore, because fan noise to cover whatever's actually being shouted at them in terms of instructions or whatever. But it has to be odd. It has to be very odd, I would imagine, for the players and for everybody who's involved whenever they go play there.
Nothing will ever beat, you know, the magic of being at the Bernabeu. When you, whether it's empty, whether you see it empty or full of fans, it is always so breathtaking to see. And I think, like you know, on what you were referencing earlier, Semra, it certainly feels like it's poised for all the boys and girls that play Football Manager. Start taking notes, because you're probably in for a retreat with formations and tactics. There's a lot to be figured out here and processed. And of course, Semra, as part of the Liga TV's build up and hype to this match, you've been talking to plenty of legends, ambassadors, and players that have been in and amongst these kind of matches, about Clásicos. Who have you been speaking to, and what have been the big takeaways amongst the general pro conversation going into this match?
Well, it will come as no surprise to you that when I've spoken to the likes of Albert Ferrer, more known as Chappy Ferrer in England, a Dream Team member, huge Barcelona fan and supporter, obviously, it comes as no surprise that he thinks Barcelona will win this one. And the same with shock, right? Yeah, I always like to give him a bit of a go about that, just for fun. Gaetan Mendieta as well, I spoke to yesterday. He obviously was backing Barcelona as well too. He spent a season with them back in the early 2000s. And I spoke to Christian Cambo as well yesterday. And he, of course, was supporting Real Madrid. So whenever it comes to predictions, it was fairly obvious. What else are they going to say? I don't think they're ever going to say that.
The loyalty is strong.
But I think all of them agree that this is such a high stakes game. And just in terms of what could happen this weekend, we haven't really talked about Madrid's game. They play Rabetes, and if they lose and Barcelona win, then Barca go top. If Atleti lose and Madrid win, then Madrid go top. And if Atleti win, then they stay top. So there's all sorts of interpretations of how it could go, but essentially you could have three different teams in first by Sunday night. So I think they all agree that this is the most exciting game that we've had between a Barca and Madrid in quite some time. And it's the one that really does have potentially a huge impact, not just in terms of results, but emotionally as well, on who's going to eventually take the crown by the end. Because it will give a boost, it will give momentum to whoever ends up winning. If somebody wins, of course. I mean, if it's a draw, well, then it's still lots to be played for. But I think, Terry Gibson, spoke to him, feels that this is going to be a really high-scoring game. He gave me a 3-3 prediction because he feels that the defenses are a little bit shaky, but because they're so strong going forward, that we'll see plenty of goals. I personally think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I think we will see a lot of goals. I think they come in so evenly matched for the first time in such a long time that I can't really see one of them being the favorites this time. I know that sounds a bit strange, but I think a lot of people kind of agree. It's a little bit of a tough trying to think of who else. I think Pete Jensen said he was giving it a 2-1 victory to Barcelona, just a slight margin, slight victory. Spoken to a lot of people this week. I'm trying to remember what everybody said.
I bet the answer is here, Semra, that no matter what side they're on, they've probably either picked their loyalties to Real Madrid or Barcelona. It's one of those things where, but the match is so important, and it's almost unbearable whether you're a fan, legend, or just a casual. It's like no matter what side you sit on, the stakes are just ridiculously high, and I think it's going to be like it's almost like ever the pro that you are, because like in my notes, that was one of my kind of my thoughts was, no matter what happens in this outcome, the pressure is going to be huger and more intense on Atleti when they come into that game on Sunday. And I would love to say that we've seen it recently in Premier League where we've seen teams kind of step up because of the pressure. I feel like Atleti, just the way they're going, is not going to be come on. It's incredible.
It is, and they prefer to be in this position of the underdog. So in a way, I feel like they would prefer to maybe go behind by a couple of points, and then try and nick it off them towards the end of the season. But at that point, it's out of their hands. They control it. Right now, this is kind of the last chance they have to control the narrative because they're 1 point ahead. So if they win the rest of the games of the season, which, if I'm honest with you, the state that Atletico Madrid are in, I don't see happening. If they do, then they're champions. The problem is, if they don't and they let one of these other two go ahead of them, it's going to be a mountain to climb, because at that point, it really is out of their hands. And I'm not sure Barca or Real Madrid are necessarily going to lose more games. Well, there is big Barca Atletico Madrid still to be played in a few weeks' time as well too. That's going to be at the Camp Nou. That also will have, I think, massive ramifications on the title race. But we'll see where we're at that stage too, in terms of who's where in the table and how many points they have and so on. But I mean, Barcelona, they haven't lost since the beginning of December against Cádiz. So they've taken 52 points, last 57. I think it's like 19 games in a row without a loss. Madrid are on something similar. I think it's 11 or 12 games now that they haven't lost in LaLiga. These are all in LaLiga, by the way.
It's intense.
They're
intense,
coming
right?
up. They're coming up in the rear rather quickly to Atletico Madrid. So
one thing I've been quite curious about going into this, and this probably will add a little bit of pain onto Dre. Of course, El Clasico is always the epicenter of La Liga globally. It is always exciting for us fans just to tune in to see what will go down. But of course, this is happening in the midst of very, very important fixtures for both teams. Now, I'm always curious to know how, maybe media-wise or fan base-wise, is the El Clasico just so big that almost at this stage nothing else matters around him? Because of course Real Madrid have their second leg with their 2-goal and a massive advantage over Liverpool, but also Barcelona have to play Athletic Bilbao in the Copa del Rey final the week after. So are there any selection headaches or any fears for these teams with the consequential matches after?
I don't think so. I think their main focus for Koeman and for Zidane is to get everybody fit and firing as quickly as possible. There's the possibility that Piqué makes it in time to play this weekend. There's also the possibility that Eden Hazard makes it in time to play. They've both been out for a while. Hazard has been training all this week and a couple of days last week. He could the game at the weekend, but Zidane decided to rest him. Same with Liverpool. He could have made it in theory, but he decided not to risk it. Will he want to risk Hazard in a Clasico? To be honest, I'm not really sure. I'm not necessarily needs to with the form that Asensio and Vinicius are in. If they can bring that same form against Liverpool, then I think they should be okay. So I think it's more a concern of trying to find that delicate balance of using everybody who is in the best form, in the best shape, the least tired, the least injured.
Yeah.
And just try to keep everybody going for as long as possible, because, as you say, in the case of Barcelona, you know, Madrid could still play. If they go all the way, they still have 4 games in the Champions League. Atletico Madrid, this is it. All eggs in one basket when it comes to La Liga, which is an advantage in theory for them. Having said that, I don't think either Koeman or Zidane are going to rest key players or anything like that in the Clasico. I think they'll go all out with whoever they deem fit enough. I think they'll put out their best 11 that they possibly can.
Obviously, at the start of the season, there was so much upheaval and drama around Messi. You know, it seems like things have quietened down, and he seems like it's, you know, to the naked eye, it looks like he's a lot more happy now, and it looks like he's finally back at home, used to the system. Obviously, there's a new president, so forth. You know, do you feel that he's more settled permanently now? So if you was going to hedge your bets, you'd say he's going to stay?
Yeah, my instinct says yes, to be honest with you. Obviously, I could be completely wrong. Nobody knows what Messi's going to do. Yeah. I'm not even sure he even really knows what he's going to get. But solely based on what I've seen in the last couple of months, I definitely agree with you that he looks so much happier than last summer. He looks completely different. He looks vitalized. I think he's really enjoying playing with these young players around him who are so talented. And with Pedri in particular, he seems to have a special connection, which a lot of people are going a little bit crazy and saying, oh, it's like Iniesta. I think it's a little bit too soon for that. But there is something really special developing there. There's no question about it. And I think now he's also finally reached some kind of understanding with Antoine Griezmann. Things are going really well with Dembélé. I think the system also suits Messi a lot better because he can roam a lot more freely. He can move into positions wherever he wants. He can move into spaces that he wants. He can kind of do what he wants, which is what he's always liked to do. And it's working really well. And the system is getting the best out of every individual in their respective positions. And I think that also influences Messi in the sense that it makes him feel like the team is a. Obviously, forget about that first leg against PSG. It was a drubbing. It was a terrible, terrible showing of Barcelona. But that second leg, obviously at that point, PSG didn't really have to do much because it was pretty much already decided that they were going. But even still, Barcelona competed in that game. They went for it all the way into the full 90. And I think that's something that will be important to Messi when it comes down to decision day, when he turns around and he looks back on the season and he sees how the team has played, how they've competed, how they haven't given up until the final whistle. I think that will be something that he takes into consideration. And those are positives. And I think he's also getting along really well with Koeman. They seem to have mutual respect with one another. They seem to be getting along really well. He has a very good relationship with Joan Laporta, the new president, that goes all the way back to his first time in charge. He's very close to the family. He said over and over and over again publicly that he's fully confident that he will be able to convince Messi to stay. And I think there's definitely a big part of that is true. If there is any president that were to win that could convince him, it's him. And I think also he has his family to consider. He has 3 children. They were born here. They were raised here. His family are very rooted here. They're very sad. It's not that easy to just pick up and move for, a year or two. And then, he has said he wants to go to the US at some stage. So I imagine sometime in the future, that is a place he will go. In between then, my instinct is to stay. And I think it's because there's so many other factors rather than it's a lot more difficult and complex than it seems on the surface. It's not so black and white when it comes to making a big.
You read my thoughts there when it came to him I definitely feel that legacy is a massive thing there. Like, you know, for you to be Barcelona great all-time, one, if not all-time great Barcelona player, that's a massive thing. And for you to move to, why would you leave? You know it's first time because you live in Barcelona yourself. But so why would you move there to go to Manchester? There's no way.
That's exactly.
If he's going to go somewhere, I'm actively recruiting him for Miami, my second home. You know, for him to go there, so I can go over there more times to see him. That's I don't ask much.
That was literally going to be my segue for. I was literally going to say, Jay, after the back of what Semra said. I would say from someone that has been to both Barcelona's training ground and Man City's training ground many of time, I can guarantee that there's only one place I would rather be, whether it was good or bad. And I think it probably being somewhere in Catalonia by chance. I would rather be there if I was Messi. But Semra, as a kind of closing topic here, not only during this coronavirus pandemic, money, financials is a very difficult thing. It's almost, when it comes to the end of the season, once it's all said and done, I think there's a very, very important case for whoever sits out on top of LaLiga off the back of all of this will have some kind of hopefully competitive advantage when it comes in the transfer market because of prize money, sponsorships, whatnot, and of course like the happiness of players like Messi. So of course one of the things that gets all European football excited about at the moment, which might be our next Messi versus Ronaldo, is Mbappe Haaland. And of course, a lot of conversation has been going on. Of course, Mino Raiola and I think Haaland have visited Barcelona, doing the rounds, doing a little bit of window shopping. Now, I think because, especially with Haaland, I think his options are definitely a bit more open. Mbappe might be very Real Madrid centric. Any thoughts within, the La Liga landscape of journalists and reporters, how they feel maybe the sum will pan out? Is there enough money to get these superstars in? Does it feel like, a La Liga win will make it more appealing for these players to join, especially when there's the competition of, the Liverpools and yesterday and Man City that have the money that might be able to afford these kind of players?
This is
a tricky one.
It's a tricky one to answer because I think there's so many different ways you could look at this.
Yeah. What's the professional approach? What's the logical approach? Because we don't want to get too excited. We don't want Dre too excited because he'll think he'll get Mbappe and Haaland in one hit.
Come on.
I think first of all, if Borussia Dortmund qualify for Champions League football next year, I think he will force a way out because he's ambitious, he's young, he's obviously the hottest property in the European transfer market, let's say. A very good chance that he'll leave Germany. That therein lies the question of, well, where is he going to go? Barcelona are strapped for cash. There's no secret. They have a huge. Real Madrid are not much better. I mean, the debt is not as big, but they don't have a lot of cash either. And Florentino Perez said last season, we are not going to be spending money. We're not going to be signing anybody. And that's not to say that won't happen this summer. I think it would, let's put it this way. A lot of the media in Spain are reporting that those visits from Mino Raiola and Haaland's father was more of a PR, not like a stunt, but like a PR, like it's a win-win. It looks good. We show Borussia Dortmund that we're interested in, as you say, window shopping, testing out the waters, seeing who's interested in Haaland and Erling, and so we're going to go out there publicly and show the world we're actively looking. So that sends a message to Borussia Dortmund in terms of what kind of contract negotiation he could make for the future with them. It also makes Laporta look good and the club look good because it's like we're actively going after the hottest property on the market. So look at us. We can flex our financial muscle or, our what's the word I'm looking for? Our prestige, all that kind of stuff. And attract the best players around. Whether it actually comes off or not, I have my serious doubts. I think there's no doubt that they're actually interested. I mean, who wouldn't be interested? And Ronald Koeman has made it no secret as well that he wants class number 9. So that is a position that needs filling. My respects to Martin Brathwaite, but it is a position that needs filling. Real Madrid, they don't really need that position. They need others. That again was also more of a, it makes both of us look good, but that for me, I don't see that one happening. I don't see Erling Haaland going to Real Madrid, if I'm honest with you. If he comes to Spain, I think it's much more likely he ends up at Barcelona. But again, the question is, where's the money going to come from? You're trying to keep Messi at the club. That is going to be, first and foremost, one of the most important things in terms of squad and squad building that they're trying to do. So what do you sell? Half the squads, offloads, huge wage bills to try and afford. It's tricky. It's very tricky. And we don't really know where we're at in terms of how Barcelona are going to finance themselves and how they're going to deal with this massive debt. So it seems unlikely. It seems tricky. But I mean, Guardiola also said, we have no money. We're not going to be making big signings either. So City also...
I never believe him.
No.
Never.
You never know.
Whenever he says he's going to not do something, is the next one know there's a big signing coming.
If I was Andrea's shoes...
You never know. You never know. I think it's entirely possible that he goes to City one day because of his father and the links that he has with the club and the Manchester City fan from the time that he was a kid. I think it's entirely possible that he ends up going there one day. Whether that day is this summer, I have my doubts. Only because, I mean, nobody has money in Europe right now. It's this pandemic has been so difficult for everybody. I think PSG are probably the only ones that are relatively healthy in an economic sense to actually go out and make big signings. When it comes to Mbappe, there's, again, no secret that Florentino Perez has long been wanting to bring him over to the club for a long time. I think Kylian Mbappe would like to go to Real Madrid as well. I think he's also been a fan since he was a kid. Whether that happens this summer, I don't know. The game is afoot. Yesterday, the Spanish media were reporting that Mbappe is not renewing his contract with PSG and that he's interested in coming to Real Madrid. But again, you never really know. These are just rumors. I'm not sure you can really buy much, especially at this stage. But I think they're definitely trying to play the game to see what they can cook up, really.
Well, it certainly makes a lot of things in and around the world of La Liga exciting for European football fans in general, whether it's on the pitch, off the pitch. You know how it is with football fans. They get excited both ends of the pitch. They get excited. They get carried away. I guess final thought with
listen, the positive takeaway from all of this is that La Liga is attracting the biggest world superstars.
Absolutely.
And past and future. Sorry.
Yes, it's a no-brainer. The biggest names, the battle that defined, our last almost decade of football, Messi versus Ronaldo, happened between two cities, Barcelona and Real Madrid. I'm sorry, Dre, but I don't know. I'll give you this final thought. Do you think between, let's say, this time next year, do you feel like you'd ever have can you even see a Haaland or Mbappe at Liverpool? Let's be honest.
I just don't feel that if you
I just don't see it happening.
You see, you killed that before I even breathed. Despite what Semra says, I think that I think that Mbappe thing is maybe there's a firm interest there, because the owners keep on talking about it. I don't see with Haaland with the stunt. I feel it was distasteful to the club and disrespectful to the club that he's currently playing for him to getting his agent and his dad to be doing these stunts. And I just think, and I agree with you, it definitely looks like it's a PR stunt. And if Barcelona meet with them, then Real Madrid have to meet with them as well, because otherwise it just doesn't look good, to the fan base.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. It just came to my mind, and I think it's interesting. One of the other perspectives from the Spanish media is that the reason Madrid met with them was because they're not necessarily as interested, but what they're trying to do is drive for Haaland for Barcelona if they want to get him.
But I feel that I feel on the contrary with Mbappe. I think that Barcelona, if he's going to go anywhere, have got all the pieces because obviously they can get rid of Griezmann, and send him to Paris. Obviously, that's an attractive proposition for him. I feel that they've got pieces like Coutinho that they could move on. So if you're going to go anywhere, you're going to go. Personally, if Messi was to go, then the most attractive proposition for him to go to is PSG because it's it's a beautiful city, very similar to Barcelona, less the beach. But it's I feel that if that's going to happen, it will be, if he's going to go to Spain, it will be with Barca. If not, we're in play.
Well, this is a thing, Jay. There's one thing that Real Madrid and Barcelona have over Liverpool when it comes to league sense. They're one win away from being sat at the top of the table, no matter what happens this weekend. So sorry, Liverpool. Sorry, Jay. Yeah, I'm only doing this as a neutral. And Dre bigged up Liverpool so much last season, and every interview we did, they got reference. So I'm just going to remind him every time.
I still love you.
Around that, it's a little different this time. If Liverpool can beat Real Madrid in the Champions League, then the fortunes will certainly change. But
Semra's rooting for that. I'm telling you.
Exactly.
She can't say, but I know she's rooting for this.
Exactly. But you got to fly the La Liga flag, of course. You want the La Liga teams to be winning because Semra is repping the La Liga teams. Semra, what is happening over Saturday? What kind of build up? Where can we find you? What is the plan for you this weekend as this El Clasico goes down?
This Clasico, you know what? You asked me earlier what some of the other people were saying here that I've been speaking to this week. Xavi Ferrer was calling this a super Clasico. So that's what I'm going to call it because I think he's right. It's a super Clasico.
Plenty at stake with this super Clasico. Well, Semra, thank you so much as always for making super generous amounts of time, making me feel a little jealous because despite that we are in some kind of nice moment, sunshine here in London, England, you are over there in Barcelona, moments away from an El Clasico, enjoying that good weather. We're super jealous, but once again, as ever,
if it makes you
thank
feel
you
any
so
better,
much.
it's very cold and it's supposed to rain all weekend, so
That makes me
that doesn't make me feel
that
bad.
makes me feel so much better.
Weather is come here.
That's it. We've done a swap, but yet again, whether it's rain or shine, I think I know where myself and Dre would rather be. But Semra, thank you so much for chatting to us, getting us excited for the Super Clasico. Yes, we're going to coin it as well. Plenty at stake. Hit up the Liga socials. Keep track of what's going down. It's this weekend, Saturday evening. It's going to be very exciting. And that's all we've got for you guys watching at home. I'm Matthew Connell, Andrea Dixon, Semra Hunter, and we shall see you next time. Goodbye.